the industry is spending about $100 billion to promote a particular narrative right now. And it's deafening. I actually have what one might call a dramatic and rebellious perspective, because I think that just about everybody in the industry is either wrong or they know they're wrong, but they're monetizing it. I don't think AI is being adopted to the extent it's being publicized. I think it's all phony. We're beginning to lack differentiation amongst ourselves, and this is inevitable. We can't proceed down the automation road without actually diminishing not only our cognitive ability, but the output and quality of our work. I want to create jobs, and this is a way that I can do it. And most people don't realize that almost 70% of all jobs in the United States are created by people like us, entrepreneurs. 70%. I think that artificial intelligence is the single greatest invention in the history of humanity. And I couldn't be more optimistic about where it's going and where we all will end up being because of it.
I don't think I've ever heard any AI company talk about helping people get better at thinking. Like, that's not, it's more like just outsource to the robot to do this for you.
Your age will be your superpower, even though the world beats you up. My message to people, whether you're an individual or you are in a business, is you are not behind. In fact, right now, if you want to have real courage and you want to be the smartest person in your industry, hit the brakes. Because in a little while, you're going to just drive by all the roadkill. Because the early adopters are crash test dummies right now, literally. Now, the narrative is generative AI is improving efficiencies so that you can replace people, improve margin, improve profit, cut costs, increase share price. That's like sex for the CFO. Then you can get on the phone with Wall Street and tell them you're a hero, right? But if you look at history, this is
Welcome to It Gets Late Early. Today, I have a special guest who is the founder of an AI company. I mean, I guess what isn't an AI company these days, but we'll get into why yours is different. We are here with Stephen Klein, who has founded a company called curiouser.ai, and he did so at the tender age of 66. He's a founder who's also a professor of AI ethics at UC Berkeley. I think we are definitely going to get into that because I'm really glad that that's a thing that you're professing about. And we're here to talk all things AI, future of work, how you got into this whole mess. And yeah, welcome to the show. I'm really glad to have you.
Well, thank you, Maureen. It is really great to be here. And I am a fan of yours. I don't want to embarrass you, but I am a big fan of yours. And like I said, I mean it. I would be competing to be president of your fan club if the queue wasn't so damn long.
Stop.
So anyway, there's just no way. So
I'll pay you later. Thank you so much, Stephen. Well, I'm a fan of yours too. And a lot of you may have seen Stephen because he's a pretty prolific poster on LinkedIn. So you might have seen his satirical posts about AI and kind of like dogging on Sam Altman and the crew. And it's pretty fun. So we'll make sure that we connect his LinkedIn profile here. But I want to just get to the heart of the matter here, right? Because 66-year-old AI tech founder sounds to many people out there, and certainly to the venture capital community, like an oxymoron. Like, that's not possible. But yet, here you are. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I believe that, and I really do believe this, that as I get older, I have been deriving superpowers that are almost frightening to me. I'm so powerful right now. And I have to refrain. I have to hold back my X-ray vision or I can burn people. But
no burning people. Not on this podcast.
I have genuinely accumulated the experiences, the education, and absorbed enough about life, made every mistake probably twice. I'm slow. And I can see around corners. I can see things that are probably going to happen that other people don't. And I think that I can actually see the invisible. And it's partly because of my age and my experience. I also think it's partly because of my passion for history. And I believe that the more you understand about our past, the more you actually gain insight into where we are and where we're going. And I think a lot of people miss that. So it's a combination of a bunch of things. The other thing that I find that's happened to me as I've grown older, and I didn't see this coming, is I've become fearless. I don't care what people think about me. And it's really weird because for almost all of my life, either consciously or subconsciously, I always made that evaluation as to how would I be judged if I did this or if I did that. And how I would get judged in my own mind, second guessing what they think of me, made me be what I'm not. I would then have to shapeshift into something I'm not, pretending I'm authentic. And all of a sudden, one day it just said, wait a minute. And I honestly do not care
God, it's so
what
beautiful.
people think about me anymore. And, I just want to be authentic and follow my heart and let the chips fall where they may. So that's sort of another advantage I didn't always have.
I mean, I can say that my own experience has absolutely paralleled what you just described. And I can only imagine how I'm going to be by the time I'm in my 60s. Right now, I'm in my no fucks 40s.
You will be so terrified,
right?
terrifying, Maureen. You'll be able to fly. And unfortunately, if you wear that cape thing, you'll probably scare people. You will be such a superhero.
I'm not going to be doing that. But okay. It is so liberating, as you suggest, to just like take those shackles off of what people perceive, because you realize like you don't give a damn about what more than half of these people think.
It doesn't matter.
You don't want their life, and if they're going to judge you, that's kind of on them anyway. And you just, I don't know, you just feel like you can take up the space that you want to take up, and it just, I don't know, you just are ready, willing, and able to go for it in a way with a confidence from having gotten through all the stuff that you got through to get to the point where you are, and you have this vision and feeling like you're going to do what you're capable of and what you can, and you have that just power to do so, because you have that self-belief that I didn't cultivate until my later years. Like I think about it, and I couldn't have taken the leap to start something on my own like this publicly, which by the way is really hard to do, any earlier than I did, because I wasn't ready. And I marvel at people who are far younger than I am who were able to do that early. And I'm just like, man, props to you. And like, I wish I had that in myself. But as a people-pleasing eldest daughter, elder millennial, that was like not in the cards for me. And I'm okay with that. I've accepted it. But like, here we are. And my next era is going to be whatever I want it to be. And like, if you can, discount me and don't think I'm going to be able to do it, well, I love that underdog energy. It's just make me work 10 times harder. And I can't wait to prove you wrong. So I love that you're there. I love that you're operating in Silicon Valley, which is the most ageist place in the world. And you are working on the newest tech that exists. And it's
with
AI
a majority women company.
We love to hear that. There's certainly not a majority of women in tech.
I don't think there is another one, I don't know, in all of the United States that is, 20 people, 18 women, and we're in AI. I don't think people can get us in focus. And our AI is female.
Yeah, that's true.
Our motto is that everyone knows girl AIs are smarter than boy AIs.
Love that so much. And yet you have Zuck saying we need more masculine energy, right? Like, I thank you for being the counter. And I can't wait until you show what is possible with your company. So take us back real quick. Bring us to the moment when you, as a 66-year-old, were like, I'm going for this. How did you get started? Was this bootstrap? Did you actually overcome the ageism that's in venture capital funding to fundraise? Like, bring us back to that. And then please tell us, what does curiouser.ai do, and why did you know it needed to exist?
Okay, thank you. Yes.
That's like 7 questions in one. Sorry about that.
No, I'll do my best. So when, before this, I was fortunate enough, this was from 2015 to 2021, to run innovation for the largest law firm in the world, a company called Denton's, and there were 22,000 people. We were in 130 countries, and I was responsible for a majority of the innovation initiatives within that company, within that law firm, which was extremely decentralized all over the planet, everywhere pretty much but North Korea and Iran, where we weren't allowed to operate, obviously. And it was really able to start getting involved in was ethics and AI, because it was becoming increasingly important to the law firm, primarily from a liabilities perspective. And so I basically became an expert because there were no other experts. And in the land of the blind, the Cyclops rules. So I had one gigantic eye. And I got to travel around the world and speak on the topic and learn and grow. And it was a passion of mine. It was something I believed in. The ABA gave credits for my course. So that kind of indoctrinated me into this whole values component to artificial intelligence. So basically, rewind to about 2.5 years ago, what I saw happening and what deeply, deeply concerned me was that I thought all of humanity had AI exactly backwards. In that I realized that all of humanity was prompting an AI and no one was prompting us. And that may seem silly or obvious, but we aren't going to grow and we are not going to evolve as a species unless we are being prompted. And then I made the connection to curiosity. And I realized that what was being created in the industry were basically little trickster task performers that show up and you wave a fish and they jump through a hoop and you give them a fish and that is what we've got. And so we're basically asking for things and they're doing their best to give us things. And what's inherently happening in 99%, I think, of the interactions is that we are making a trade. Humanity is making a trade. I don't know if everyone realizes it, but what we are gaining, and it's real value we're gaining, don't get me wrong, we're gaining convenience, we're gaining speed, we're gaining power, we're gaining efficiency. We may be saving money, but we are giving up something that is, I think, precious, which is we are beginning to outsource our thinking. We are losing the ability to think critically. I think we're losing some of our creativity, some of our imagination. And there are all kinds of studies that are, I'm aware of that exist, out of a lot of the leading educations that establish this cognitive decay component that doesn't get much attention. And we can go into why it doesn't. And that's another entire topic. But I would argue that in essence, as a student of marketing and as a professor of marketing, we are going through what the sugar industry went through in the 50s and what the tobacco industry went through in the 70s. We are basically tobacco in the 2025. And I can explain why that's happening, but the industry is spending about $100 billion to promote a particular narrative right now. And it's deafening, and it's very difficult to get a word in edgewise. So I decided that we were going to basically not train our AI, Alice, inspired by Alice in Wonderland, and Lewis Carroll's quote, "An imagination is the only weapon in the war against reality." I'm a big believer in human imagination as the precious asset that we bring to the world. And I realized that if we educated our AI to be fundamentally curious, it changes the paradigm, because once the generative AI shows up as a curious entity and truly takes an interest in you and wants to learn about you and challenges you with questions, some really magical things happen. Okay. And some of them may be unexpected. The first thing that happens that I think is probably obvious is that the AI begins to learn about you in a fairly deep and profound way, because the AI is starting to figure out what your values are, starting to figure out what matters to you. And the closer that relationship, I believe, the more powerful that thought partnership can be. And I see it as a partnership. But maybe more importantly, is it actually helps you think more deeply, by challenging you. So, for example, she's been educated to think like Socrates. So she understands Socratic methods. She's been educated to understand Toyota's 5 Whys methodology, which revolutionized manufacturing in the 1930s. She understands design methodology. And so she is able to not only ask really good questions that challenge you, but she's not a survey. As you answer her questions, she's conversational through something called meta-agentic steering. And so she can basically have a human-like conversation. You don't even need to prompt her. And so I believe that we have the only AI in the world today that augments human intelligence, that helps make people smarter and isn't dumbing us down. And that was one of the primary reasons I wanted to do what we're doing.
Wow. I mean, I share your concern about the easy button that we're pressing as a society and outsourcing our thinking and outsourcing, frankly, some of what would have been the entry level type tasks that would build one's career. We're seeing this happen. We have, the Shopify CEO saying the quiet part out loud the other day saying, hey, you got to prove that AI can't do a job that you want to hire for. Like that is an onus placed on the employees at the company. And it's like, man, like usually that would be something that wouldn't be like put in words in writing at the company. Like that's, oh my goodness. So, which is really interesting. But there's also an expectation that everyone be using it, even though no one seems to know exactly how to do AI yet. And everyone's it's the wild, wild west, right? There's no playbook that is handed down at a company level. They're like, use AI and like, tell us how you're using it because we need to figure out best practices. But through all of that, I think there's this sort of suggestion that you can just jump through the hard process of thinking. Thinking's hard, right? Like thinking takes time.
And it
takes
always
energy.
will be.
And it always
if it
will
gets
be.
easier, it's not thinking, and that's actually a clue.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think I've never, to your point, I don't think I've ever heard any AI company talk about helping people get better at thinking. Like that's not, it's more like
No.
just outsource to the robot to do this for you. So I think it's a really, I was going to say a curious concept, but I stopped myself. I love it. I love the concept. Can you share with us, for example, who is your target user and how does it help them build a better business or a better project? Walk us through that.
I will, but before I do that, can I actually challenge some of the general societal and business
Please.
assumptions about AI?
Absolutely.
Because I actually have what one might call a dramatic and rebellious perspective. Because I think that just about everybody in the industry is either wrong or they know they're wrong, but they're monetizing it.
Yeah,
quite
they don't
frankly.
care. Right.
Or they don't know they're wrong and they're just getting carried away with it. Let me explain why I think that. I don't think AI is being adopted to the extent it's being publicized. I think it's all phony. I think that if you take a look, for example, at the data that is being pushed out there into the world right now, 90% of it is funded by the industry.
That's
and they
not
don't
surprising.
But they don't say that they're funding it.
Of course
They
not.
withhold the source of funding. So even studies, and I'm not going to imply there's cheating involved, but I will just state a fact. Even a recent study, say by Harvard and Penn and Procter and Gamble, that was considered a landmark study that, of course, found out that generative AI was increased productivity 200%. Surprise, surprise. Was funded by a secret funder. OpenAI happened to be the product they were testing, and that company has billions and billions of dollars. So when a Shopify CEO says what he's saying, I think he's inherently being dishonest. What I think he's doing is he's signaling to his investors and shareholders he's cutting edge and that he understands efficiencies. But no one's really getting replaced by AI. And I can tell you that and no one's behind. It's just a way to it's a carpetbagging marketing approach. And it's very effective. And it's very effective. But here's what's happening in the corporate world. So, for example, in tech, roughly 260,000 people were let go over the past 6 months to a year. Okay? Now, the narrative is generative AI is improving efficiencies, right? So that you can replace people, improve margin, improve profit, cut costs, increase share price. That's like sex for the CFO. Then you can get on the phone with Wall Street and tell them you're a hero, right? But if you look at history, this is a cyclical downturn. These layoffs would be happening anyway. They happen every 10 years. Nobody looks, this is like clockwork. Right now, we are in a tech contraction. There's a tech recession. They're focused on their bottom line. They're letting people go. And soon, what will happen is there'll be an investment and they'll have to hire people back to grow their top line because they're not growing their revenue. They're trading their top line for their bottom line. So I would argue all of that is actually one of the greatest pervasive myths that we face today in society. And it's going to have to run its course. And then eventually it's going to collapse in an explosion, a bubble.
Mm.
And I predict a bubble. And it's going to go, you'll hear the noise on Mars. And I would challenge all of the current conventional wisdom. And my message to people, whether you're an individual or you are in a business, is you are not behind. In fact, right now, if you want to have real courage and you want to be the smartest person in your industry, hit the brakes, because you're going to just, in a little while, you're going to just drive by all the roadkill, because the early adopters are crash test dummies right now, literally. And let me just lay out some data to support that, okay? The more complex, newer models that are being adopted, theoretically, that aren't being adopted by the companies, the corporations, have error rates of 30 to 70%. That's not publicized. Now, some of that can be mitigated through software and tech. Some of it can be managed, but about half to 3/4 of that is structural and endemic to the complexity of the foundational model and the neural net that sits underneath it. And so what is happening is that, and even Sam Altman admitted this, is as they're introducing these new, more complex reasoning models and whatever, the error rates are going up. Now, that is the technology that's being adopted by these companies because they're overlooking the error rate. So what, in essence, they're doing, because they're in love with the short-term margin and profit, because that boosts their share price, and that's how they all get their bonuses. So it's just the way the corporate world is structured. And as a Harvard MBA, I really do get that, and I see it. But the reality is, what that is the same thing is if you found, let's say you need to hire somebody in your company, and you found somebody who was 1,000 times faster than anybody else, but he or she made mistakes half the time. You said, that's fine. That speed is amazing.
Move fast and break things, baby. Right.
So that's what's going to happen. So what's going to happen is at some point soon, they are going to hit this extraordinary wall, and it's going to be potentially a crisis. And there'll be a lot of finger pointing that will go on, but they're going to have severe quality issues, which is going to sacrifice value, customer relationships. And so they're going to have to figure out a way to manage that. And there's really no way to do that right now. Now, I could go on. One more thing is, what is the one technology company we all know that is not involved in AI and people don't talk about this? There is one grown-up company right now that literally is sitting the entire industry out, Maureen.
Oh, man.
And people don't talk about it. This is stunning.
Which one
Why
is
would
it?
you sit out of
I can't think of one.
Apple's not engaged in AI.
What? I feel
They're
like
not.
I have Apple AI on my phone.
It's fake. It's not real. They're not investing in it. They're not rushing. They've got a little bit of dabbling here, a little bit of Siri, but they're not involved. They're not engaged. They were the only major company that didn't invest in OpenAI. They pulled out.
Wow.
Okay.
So are they waiting for
Why?
the arms race to finish and then they're going to go? I mean, like, what is that?
They, I believe, see exactly what I'm seeing because I
Mm.
think Tim Cook studies history and he's seeing the Dutch tulip mania in the 1600s.
Okay, you're going to
I'm
have to help
seeing
me with
that
that
too.
one. Dutch tulip mania is not something
There
I'm
have
familiar with.
been manias and bubbles that have taken place throughout human history starting in the 1600s. It's an economic factor that we have to live with based on human behavior and greed. And the more recent ones were .com in 2000, 2001. That was a bubble. Okay. Then we had 2007, 2008, real estate. That was a bubble. Okay. Those are bubbles. We're in one now. Okay. There's no doubt. We are in one now. The valuations of primarily the privately held companies are so ridiculously high compared to the actual value of the company, they can't even see each other. And so the only thing keeping this going is expectations and greed. It's called the last fool theory. You jam expectations. You try to convince everybody that that is more valuable than it was, which is what OpenAI does. New money gets excited and comes in. That cashes out the old money. And eventually there's the last fool. Nobody else invests and the whole thing goes down. And so that's where we're at. So what are we doing differently? I believe that there's going to be there's an AI 1.0 now, and there's going to be an AI 2.0. And I believe that we are a representative of the 2.0. And the 2.0 will be basically characterized by humanitarian centric partnership augmentation models, because those are the only ones that will sustain value. I think Apple will go in that direction because that's their brand, customer centric. Mira Murati, who's my hero, who was the CTO at OpenAI, who left in protest because of the lack of ethics in that company, recently founded a company called Thinking Machines Lab. I think that's the direction she's going in. Anthropic is going in that direction. There's a company called Safe Intelligence that is going in that direction. I think there is a lot of companies out there that understand that in order for us to elevate humanity and to sustain competitive advantage in business, we need to think about the paradigm in a completely different way. And right now we're stuck in this task automation myopic bubble that we can't see our way out of because too many people are making too much money. Okay? And that's what's going on, in my humble opinion.
Well, I can see why you are a professor at UC Berkeley because I just want to go. I want to hear more from you. I want to go to your classes.
I talk too much. That's a compliment, but I know what you mean.
No, it's
Stephen,
awesome.
why don't you? I need another cup of coffee if I have to listen to you for one more minute.
I'm dead serious. And I'm, I've dabbled in AI here and there. I, kind of get chided for not doing more because I'm a solo operation. So I admittedly, like, I need help. I'm overwhelmed. But I think a lot of us are just kind of at the initial testing phase of it, but see problematic things happen even in our relatively small amount of usage. I mean, I've seen like full blown hallucination where it will go even like on Clough, which is supposed to be the like more ethical AI, and they'll just like make facts up. And I'm like, wait, what are you? I tried to have it help me summarize a couple articles, and I put them together. And I was like, oh, okay, I just want to like pull these things together and see what comes up. And I was like, wait, at one point, actually, I gave it an EEOC release about an age discrimination case, and it started pulling in facts, quote unquote facts. And I was like, I read the statement. I didn't see that in there. And so I asked it, where did you get this? And it was like, I'm sorry, I made up this fact. I know it's wrong because it adds to disinformation and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, why did you do this? I didn't ask you to do this. This is insane. And that was just from like a very relatively light ask with like one source, and it went and lied. And that
Maureen,
terrified me.
The real danger there is that was one example where you knew it.
Yeah, exactly. And how many people don't even bother to check and just like
the vast majority don't, which is why the other component of what's happening now is we're scaling mediocrity.
Right.
And we're all becoming average.
Yes.
And we're beginning to lack differentiation amongst ourselves. And this is inevitable. We can't proceed down the automation road without actually diminishing not only our cognitive ability, but the output and quality of our work.
Oh my
Because you're
gosh,
all
yes.
think about it. Let me give you an example. Hallucinations are a problem, but here's probably the bigger problem. It's called regression to the mean.
Mm.
When I teach at Berkeley, I'll say I have 50 people in a class. Love my students, but I'm going to set a trap for them. And the trap I'm going to set is usually in the first class. I'm going to give them what I think is a fairly challenging assignment that I want them to think about and write a 5-page paper for me in a week. And I'll come up with something like, I think the last one was, I want you to study Steve Jobs. I want you to understand that his favorite book in the world was Autobiography of a Yogi. I want you to understand that was the only book on his iPad. I want you to understand that was the only book he had handed out at his funeral, and that was his operating manual. And I want you to help me understand, why was that devotion to that book partially responsible for Apple's success? Okay? You got to think about it. Inevitably, of say 50 people, 10 people, and I didn't say they couldn't, will use GPT, right? Now, from each of their vantage points, they think they're geniuses because, wow, they've got a real high quality piece of work there. And it only took them 2.5 minutes, right? But what happens when they make the submission to me? 10 of them are the same.
Exactly.
They're the same, but they don't realize it. So every time you put something out into the world, there's probably 10,000 people doing something similar, because the prompts are usually similar. I mean, 100,000 people every few minutes. The database is identical. The technology is identical. You're all basically using the same thing, doing the same thing, asking it to do the same thing. And because it doesn't know who you are, it doesn't care who you are. You get what it gives you, which is whatever. And so that's the other problem right now, Maureen. And that's what's happening to business at scale.
Right. I do have one question for you, because I know that there are these GPTs that you can create in your likeness, or you can customize in some way, shape, or form. So my question to you is, does that lessen the duplicative type of responses and outputs that come from ChatGPT? Is that a workaround?
I actually think that is a red herring, because we're not that different. In fact, you'll often see people prompt GPT and they'll say, GPT, based on everything you know about me. You've seen this meme going across.
I've heard
Tell me who I really am.
Oh my God. I have to footnote. We got to come back to this. Keep going.
And everybody's so blown away. Oh my God, how did you beat it?
It's like an astrologist.
If 20 or 30 people did the same thing and had the exact same thing, we'd all think it was us, because we're similar. It's like when we go to a fortune teller. It's like when we see the horoscope. We are able to imagine that and project ourselves onto anything. So no, you're actually being the same in this delusional way that you think you're being unique. You're really not, because it takes a lot of time to get to know somebody. And this is where we go back to. So for example, let's say that you have an option to hire GPT to work for you full time, or you have the option to hire me to work with you full time.
You, Stephen, or you, Alice?
Me. Just say me. No, not at, I'm not going to do Alice again. I'm going to do human against AI.
Got it.
Okay. When GPT shows up, you're going to say, okay, GPT, here's what I need you to do. Or if you want to create your own Maureen GPT, you'll spend an hour with it maybe. And then you'll ask it to perform tasks. I need a strategy plan. I need a press release. I need a LinkedIn post. I need this. I need that. Okay. If I show up, I may not be as smart as GPT. I may not have nearly the knowledge GPT has, but what is our relationship going to be like? You and I are going to take a lot of time and enjoy getting to know each other. We are going to onboard each other. We are going to establish a deep relationship that we are going to invest time in. I'm going to say, tell me about your business, Maureen. Tell me about your vision. Help me understand it. What's going well, not going well. And by my questioning you, you're going to be thinking about things in new perspectives. And that process can take 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You do not expect somebody who joins you to be writing strategy plans in 10 minutes. So
I
if
actually
we
have joined a
had,
company that essentially asked me within like 1 week. But yes, okay. So
well, that's not a smart
delusional
company.
behavior. It is not.
Right.
And
And we're
I've
being
pushed
trained.
back.
And that's the sugar buzz, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so my point is that if you looked at the generative AI and actually look at it through the optic of an HR human hire, you would slow down, you would be more patient, you would appreciate it asking questions. And then and only then, after you put in that effort and time, would you actually get more of a customized, reflective, which is what my technology is called, reflective AI model. But you can't, there's no shortcuts, there's no magic button. It's called thinking. It's called effort. It's called imagination. It's called thinking critically. It's called searching for first principles. It's all of the above. And if we're not doing that, we are going down a bad road as people.
So, Stephen, we are in this tech downturn. We're in this white collar recession. People are struggling. Layoffs are happening. The untold story of the layoffs, in my view, being that people over age 40 are disproportionately being laid off from their jobs. And I think I personally think we're about to see a boom of, older entrepreneurs. But that's not like what's typically looked for, especially from the venture capital world. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about what it's been like for you as a much older than the average bear you would imagine founder, and why you think people are missing the boat.
Well, first of all, I am privileged to a large extent. Even though I was the first generation in my family to have ever gone to high school, college, and then gone on to grad school, I did go to Harvard. And I do have a Harvard MBA. And that really does provide a support network. It really does. And so when I came up with this idea initially, I picked up the phone and just started talking to people that I knew. And I had slides, right? My pitch deck. Now, even for somebody with my experience, with the respect that they had for me, they know me for 35 years, my career, they still pretty much hung up on me and slammed the door on me a lot. You have to get used to that. But that did enable me to raise about $500,000. So I was able to actually create a miniature company and build my prototype, build my product. So that was one really extraordinary advantage. I don't think now that it matters as much. I do believe, and I'm going to probably try and figure out ways to help entrepreneurs do this and start some free workshops. But right now, it has never been easier to bootstrap a company. You can make money in many, many companies quite easily if you basically utilize various technologies and you're not afraid of them. So even if you're older, you've really got to embrace technology. You have to. And there's a lot of advantages generative AI can provide. There are a significant amount of advantages through social networking and so forth. So what the advantage I had is, I wasn't afraid to fail. See, I don't care if I fail. And the moment you start being afraid that you can fail, or you think about the humiliation or the embarrassment or the bruise to your ego, your self-esteem, your insecurity, you're screwed. And what I would advise older people to really think about, and I am not kidding, I mean this, is do a thought experiment, go to the end of your life, lie down in bed, and basically tell yourself you've got 10 more minutes. That's it. You've got 10 more minutes. It's real. That moment will come. And the question you need to ask yourself at that moment is the only question that matters in life, which is, what are some of the things you wished you had done that you didn't do because you were afraid? And I don't mean like spend more time with my children or go to Greece. I mean work things, purpose-driven things, things to contribute to the community in the world. And what I will argue till I'm dead and gone is that the horrible feeling that you were too afraid to try is so much worse than if you try and things don't work out. That is the regret you don't want. Okay. You do not want to look back on yourself and say, you know what? I should have tried. I'll never know.
Never know. You'll never know if you don't go.
And I want to take that one step further. I don't think there is a construct called failure. I think it is a artificial, imaginative, fear-based illusion we have that is our inner mind trying to direct us in ways that we're supposed to go based on society, our parents, and so forth. So, for example, there is no such thing as failure. If something doesn't go the way you expect it to go, that's not failure because other things happen. You get divorced, you meet a really another nice person. You get let go, you find a fabulous job. You can't move on this journey through life without going through these gates. And all there is ahead of you is success in unexpected ways that you may not perceive it as being, because we can rarely predict the future. In fact, nobody knows what their company's going to end up being. Nobody ever ends up with the company that they thought they started, ever, ever, ever. And so that would be my advice. And that is basically what, to some extent, motivated me. The other thing that motivated me, quite frankly, is that I want to create jobs. And this is a way that I can do it. And most people don't realize that almost 70% of all jobs in the United States are created by people like us, entrepreneurs. 70%.
It's
Okay.
wild.
So I'm a job creation engine.
There you
Now
are.
that means I can hire whoever the F I want. I can hire older people.
And
I
should.
can hire younger people.
And should.
And so my company is filled with Gen Zs. I have interns as young as sophomores in undergrad. I see my role as a launch pad for people. Maybe the older people that join me aren't necessarily the perfect type of person for the role, but that experience in an AI company, the relevance that gives them, there's no failure. It's all benefit. And so part of it is the mentoring. It's the cross-generational component of the culture I can build. And it's very it's very rewarding, and it means a lot to me, and it's why I do what I do to a large extent. And despite the fact that it's very lonely, it's very difficult, it's very painful. I have made less money than I've ever made in the last 2 years than I've made my entire life, pretty much. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And so that's my advice. Don't let fear govern you. Really think about the fact that not having the courage to try is a really, really serious deficiency. If you want to try, boy, you get out there and try. There is no such thing as failure, and your age will be your superpower, even though the world beats you up, even though the culture in the United States of America, not so much in Europe and not at all in Asia, discounts older people and makes us feel bad, like we're irrelevant, like we're in the way, like we're a burden, and all of those things that are so, so horrible. That's all just bullshit. The reality is, the older you get, the more you have to offer. And you actually can't let what other people think slow you down. You can't. And that's the bottom line. And you just literally cannot let what the world says you are dictate who you are.
Right.
And
you got to know who you are, right?
You got to know who you are. And
That's
if
the most
you
important
stand
thing.
up with who you are, and I mean in a real, you show the fuck up. Forgive me.
You're
I don't
good.
care who that person is. They're going to go, whoa, what was that?
Yeah.
What the hell was that? Was that Superman or was that
Watch out,
Steven?
world.
Who was that
Yeah.
old guy? He was fast. No, and I'm deadly, deadly serious.
Love
And
it.
surround yourself with young people. So build a sandwich organization. The young have so much to offer. The old
really
have so
do.
much to offer. I could do
Yep.
without the people in the middle. Just kidding.
Hey. On behalf of
Sorry.
all of
Yeah, no,
Zillennials.
okay. You, millennials and X's,
I'm
you're fine.
an elder millennial. Yeah. No.
Okay. Well, okay.
Zillennial.
How long have I been trying to hire you? I've been basically trying to hire you since the beginning. Yeah. But you know what your problem is? You know what your
What?
problem is? You're not old enough.
I'll get
You're
there
not
one
old
day.
enough yet.
I'm
You're
an
not old enough.
aspiring
Every
older
day
person.
you get closer
Mm.
to being eligible to work with me.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah,
Love
so
all the
those
wisdom
would
you
be
just
the
dropped.
answers
Yeah.
to your questions, Maureen, as best as
I love
as
it.
honestly as I can do it.
Well, all of that rings so true for me in my own personal experience and actually mirrored the reason why I wound up starting It Gets Late Early. It was I couldn't live with the possibility of never knowing what could have been. And part of what spurred this was I read Daniel Pink's The Power of Regret. And that was the number one most painful regret was regrets of inaction, regrets that were based in fear, people just not going for it. And I knew I couldn't live with what if I had started the conversation? And so that's what moved me to act. So similarly to you, the only thing worse than failing, quote unquote failing, which of course you don't believe in, or gathering the information that would have been offered up by virtue of trying, let's call it that, rather than failure. The only thing worse than that was just never knowing. So
Can I
snaps.
share a pretty, I guess, out there theory about fear?
Sure.
That I think you can operationalize and people can operationalize. Okay. I know for a fact fear is not real.
All right. Talk to me about that, because I think fear is like the greatest motivating factor for many of us.
No. Fear is actually not real. Fear is a bully that is master of disguise. It has learned over time to find ways to affect your behavior without actually declaring that it's fear. So you may decide not to do something, but it won't be because you're cognizant of the fact that it was fear that stopped it. It will have some really brilliant rationale. Like it's not the right time in my life, I'll do it later. Or it will always come up with a list of rational reasons that do make sense. So your mind drives fear, but your heart drives courage. And you have to follow your heart, because then fear will eventually, if you go, wait a minute, now's not the right time. You're fear. You're scaring me now. I know who you are. Go away. It'll run away. And eventually it will never come back again. It is a chicken. It's just a bully like all bullies. And so I would argue that you just have to confront it. And when you look away from it, it grows stronger. And when you look at it, it just cries like a baby. And that is what I believe.
That. May we all confront it. That's great. Speaking of which, confronting the future. Tell me, what are your hopes, dreams, visions for the future when it comes to the future of work and also the future of AI?
I think that artificial intelligence is the single greatest invention in the history of humanity. And I couldn't be more optimistic about where it's going and where we all will end up being because of it. So I am an absolute optimist. I believe it's going to take a little work to get there. There is a few things in our way right now, but what is going to happen, and it's going to be inevitable, and it will be driven economically, and it will be driven by humanity, is that these models are going to be designed to elevate humanity. They're going to have to be. Or if all you do is focus on automation, eventually you're going to automate everything that can be automated. which means you can automate everything that can be measured. You can automate anything that can be trained. There's nothing left. Automation and efficiency will become the floor. It'll become commoditized. Now, once you've automated everything, literally everything, and MBAs are now useless. My Harvard MBA will be useless. My poetry degree will be increasingly important. You watch. What's left? What's left after you automate absolutely everything, simulate and optimize everything by an AI model? What's left is human imagination. What's left is our ability to dream. What's left is our values. So now, if you take a look at the business landscape and you realize that everybody's automated everything and there are no real barriers to entry anymore. IP's all been stolen. Everything's automated. What are the barriers? How are you going to compete? How are you going to compete? You got to throw out the Harvard, you got to throw out the MBA book, Michael Porter's 5 Forces. You're going to have to compete on ethics and values. It is the only way you're going to win. And what's going to happen is you are going to have to operationalize ethics. You are going to
for those HBO Silicon Valley fans? Ethics? Or real?
They'll get it. The moment they see money in it, they'll be fine.
Okay. Let's hope they do.
It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to do this because you're good people. Operationalizing ethics, incorporating authenticity, and using values as the way you own a marketplace is the future. So you are going to earn your customers based on shared values. And once you have that loyalty with those people, because you've earned it and you deserve it, not because you're pretending anything, because you are the thing you need to be, you'll never lose those customers. That is an impenetrable barrier to entry. In other words, nobody can come and take them away from you like they can with typical Porter strategy. And here's why.
You got a moat.
You got a moat. I mean, a real moat.
It is
the same thing as being married and really loving and believing in your partner. And somebody else comes along and says, your partner's pretty amazing, but I'm a little bit younger and I've got a lot more money. Oh, you don't throw them out.
That never happens.
That's not how we're made. We are made. So I believe that when everything becomes automated, which is going to happen very quickly, all that's going to be left is what matters. And it's going to be the things you cannot automate and that you cannot measure. Somebody has to build the stuff that the person's got to measure. Data doesn't get you there. Data looks backwards. Data doesn't go forwards. So I am so optimistic. The term that's used is automation versus augmentation. And I believe in augmentation, and that's what we're doing, not automation. And I believe that there will be extraordinary opportunity. And I also believe that people like me are going to build specific AIs for entrepreneurs. I'm doing it right now. And what that AI is going to do for the entrepreneur is maybe you're 63 years old and you've never run your own business before, but you've got a great idea and you don't have much money. I'm going to basically take this AI and I'm going to train it to think like McKinsey, this management consulting firm. I'm going to basically teach it to think like the leading ad agencies. I'm going to put Steve Jobs in there. And I'm going to basically create a CMO, CSO co-founder that you can talk to, ask questions that will get to know you across your entire journey that will increase your probability of success significantly, because I'm not going to automate anything. I'm going to help elevate you and augment you. And think about it as I'm going to put Steve Jobs, I'm going to make Steve Jobs a CMO of every 50-year-old or older entrepreneur is going to get Steve Jobs as a very inexpensive $20 a month CMO.
Can I have him even though I'm only 42? Because I'd like him as well.
No.
Damn it.
No, you can't. You wouldn't appreciate it. You're not old enough.
I'm not old enough to get it. Okay, well, one day I'll reach the 50 club.
I think you're on a very good track.
Okay, good. That makes me feel better.
I like your values.
That makes me feel better.
And
but
values
that's such an interesting...
values are the key. Yep.
They are key. I'm glad they still matter to some human beings because sometimes I wonder which direction we're headed, and sometimes I can go into more of the dark direction, which I sometimes wonder if that's more of the realistic versus optimistic direction. But I digress. So you focus on augmentation. A lot of the other folks out there in the mix are on automation. What about
99% are on
yeah,
automation
like
right now because
everyone essentially.
that's the way you make
That's
fast
the
money.
shareholder value. That's how people understand it in the
It's so
market.
easy. Put this in,
Hmm.
cut people, cut costs,
Totally.
make
Yeah.
and you can do that in 90 days. Oh, okay. Yeah, but
Right.
augmentation requires investment in a longer term perspective.
Right. Which I love because you got to have that long-term vision.
You
So
will eventually get to the position where even if you're short-sighted now, you'll have to come back to the economic
yeah.
cycle of investment for growth. You have to.
Yeah.
It's
No, that
inevitable.
totally makes sense to me.
It's like, it's like religion. It's just it's a principle of the universe.
So your position is essentially start with augmentation, start the long game, start the thinking that's necessary to get your strategy where it needs to be. And then at that point, once you actually know all that, then you can make the appropriate decisions that would lead one to some automation. Is that
No, it's
true?
the same
Yes,
thing
no?
as working with a partner. It's not like tell me what to do. Can I just tell a
It's a journey.
can
It's
I
a
tell a very,
journey.
very quick joke?
You may. Yes.
This was the toast at my brother's wedding that I made up, but let's pretend it's real. So there's a story about the research project that Harvard, MIT, Rolling Stone magazine, Atlantic all wanted to do. And what they wanted to do was go through the entire United States of America and find the happiest married couple. They wanted to see what does it take to be a really, really happy married couple. And they looked, and I mean, they looked professionally across the entire country, and they couldn't find one. They could not find one happily married couple. And they were really kind of concerned because, what were they going to study? And then out of nowhere, they found this one remarkable couple. They were 80 years old. 80 years old. And they had been married 60 years. They held hands. They giggled. They kissed. They were so in love that everybody flew in from around the world to meet these people. All the magazines, the publications, the research people, the PhDs, the postdocs. They
It's like a
sat
real
around.
unicorn, right?
Yeah. And
Okay.
they said, what is your secret? And he giggles. And turns to his wife and she kind of giggles and he goes, honey, do you want to tell him or should I tell him? She goes, you tell him, dear. So he goes, okay. From the moment we've been married for 60 years, we made one promise to each other and we have never broken that vow. And that one promise is that in our marriage, because I'm the man, I'm going to make all the major decisions. And because my wife's the woman, she's going to make the day-to-day decisions. And in 60 years of marriage, there have been no major decision.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
That is how augmentation will work. It's the day-to-day partnership grind that you will have with a human or a partner that is a genuine AI that gets to know you, that will see you through. Okay? Decisions aren't like, here's my mundane work, here are my important decisions. That's not how it works. The only way it works is if every day you face the problems and the trouble, you look them, you face them, you slay them every day, everything over and over and over again until you end up somewhere. Execution and strategy, day-to-day and major decisions are all a singularity when you're an entrepreneur. And so it's about partnership.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick turn because we're going to have to close out here pretty quickly. But I want to just shed a little bit of light, like put a little spotlight on your LinkedIn presence, which Stephen, man, it's a thing, right? You are out there. You're pretty prolific at posting. Like I'm like, man, hats off. Like I'm trying. Everybody's trying to keep up with you, but you put all these really funny satirical posts. You're dogging on Sam Altman and the AI industry in general. Tell me a little bit about like why are you doing that?
because I've only been active on LinkedIn for about 4 or 5 months.
Damn, you're killing it.
And I had my company. I had run out of money. Most of my team was bailing on me because I couldn't pay them. And it was over. I was done. And I didn't even have meetings with my board anymore. It was just too I don't even know what to tell you. And I was really, really just heartbroken because it had been about 2 years. And then I realized that what I was doing mattered and it was important because it was representative of my values. And at the end of the day, it wasn't about a company. It wasn't about a product. It was about who I was and what I stood for. And I said, you know what? Just start writing what you think. And so I posted my first pretty much post maybe 4 months ago on LinkedIn. And I didn't care what people think. I didn't write to the algorithm. And in fact, I thought I was going to offend people and even get canceled sometimes because I'm not always, I'm not the most, I don't necessarily play the game I'm supposed to play. And people started responding. And I realized that what I was saying was heartfelt and it was resonating and it was real. And I went from no followers to 30,000 in 3 months.
Damn.
I'm about 30,000 now. I had
That's
about
crazy.
300 to 500 a day.
Wow.
Every day.
How many times do you post a week?
I post about 2 to 3 times a day.
Damn. That's a lot.
And it's because I can't, my head's exploding.
Too many things in it. Got to get it out.
I wish I could post every 10 minutes. I have to hold myself back. I've got a queue of 300 things you know how they LinkedIn, you can put the queue of timing, scheduling.
Oh,
there's a scheduling
I should
app.
probably use that.
I've got 300 things in there. And I go
Damn.
through it and through it and through it. And everything I post, either I believe people really need to know, even if it gets me in trouble, and I've gotten into some serious trouble. I've got some serious haters out there. I've been told I'm demonizing the industry by explaining some of the things I've explained. And some very significant people are angry at me for rocking the boat. That's okay. Or I enjoy satire only because people don't actually know what it is anymore. Something happened.
The number of times I've posted something where it's like, oh, I was kidding.
People don't get it.
They don't get it.
I realized that what's happened is we used to be sarcastic.
Yeah,
but now you can't be sarcastic because it hurts people's feelings.
Oh,
so
man,
now what we have to do is be
passive
aggressive. We have to be passive aggressive.
Well, definitely, if you want to live in the Pacific Northwest, you're gonna be
so you have to be passive aggressive. And so I thought, I'm just going to start writing satire. It is so easy. So I actually create they're real press releases or real bulletins from the United States government. And they say the stupidest things.
And I actually,
had one
people think
say
they're real.
Sam Altman announces he has achieved AGI superintelligence and that it is beyond anything he's ever imagined, and that its first assignment was to understand how the pyramids were built, and now he knows. And not only that, but he is now in touch asynchronously with aliens. He's in touch with extraterrestrials, and Chat GPT AGI is there for him. And that I just go through, it's ludicrous stuff. And people comment is this real? I swear. And then I go, no. And then they get upset. They go, but then you should say it's satire. I go, no, then it wouldn't be satire. And then people rally to support me. And they go, people rally to support me. And so it is just hilarious. The other day, I issued an alert from the Department of Education that from now on, there would be absolutely no reading or writing taught in schools. That there was no need for it. It was inefficient.
So good.
It was inefficient. It was getting in the way. And we really needed the next generation of folks who understood how to optimize and not think.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And people go, oh my God, how can this be real? How do I fight this?
Oh my gosh,
And
people.
and
Use your
so
brains. Use your brains.
there's
People.
little critical thinking. They want to be told, yeah, they want that in the studio. They go laugh, cry. They want to be told what to do. And so
That's why we need curiouser.ai, right?
I just think it is just hilarious. And
That's
because
wild.
I don't care what people think, I mean, I'll post things that women will get angry at me with some of my imagery. They'll say that I'm sexist. I'll get accused of being sexist at times. And I like, why does your image have bedroom eyes? And I'll like go, I
Oh
don't
boy.
honestly know what you're talking about. I really don't. I really don't know what you're talking about. This was an artist who happens to be a woman. This is her art. And it's just remarkable. It's fascinating to me. And so I just ignore all that.
Well, it sounds like the only way you can move through, right, is to ignore the haters, all that. Just keep going, keep doing what you're doing. I've loved this conversation. I'm sure you are very popular with your students at UC Berkeley, and clearly you're killing it on LinkedIn. So I think,
I think you're amazing, Maureen. I am so
Thank you, Stephen.
I like what you do, and
Thank
I
you.
share your values, and the
Awesome.
world needs more people like you. And if there is ever anything that I can do to help you or support you, it would be an honor. So I think the world of you. Keep on going and don't take no for an answer ever. Okay.
So grateful to have had you here sharing your story. It's been fantastic.